Judge Pacquiao walked quietly into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, holding a small traffic violation ticket in his hand. It wasn't a big case, just a minor misunderstanding on the road, but he still felt nervous. His posture was respectful, his tone calm, and his eyes focused on the floor as he waited for his name to be called. No one in the room recognized him. To everyone there, he looked like any other young man dealing with a simple ticket. And Jimmy liked it that way. No attention, no spotlight, no special treatment. Just fairness. When his turn came, Judge Frank Caprio looked up with his usual warm smile. "Good morning," the judge said kindly. "What's your name, sir?" Jimmy stepped forward and answered politely. "Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Jimmy Pacquiao." Judge Caprio nodded, unaware of who he was speaking to. "All right, Mr. Pacquiao, let's take a look at your case." The courtroom remained relaxed, just another day of people explaining their tickets, their mistakes, and their reasons. But something felt different about this young man. It wasn't his appearance. It wasn't his voice. It was the way he carried himself, the quiet respect, the discipline, the humility. Judge Caprio noticed it too. As Jimmy stood there, hands folded calmly, the judge leaned slightly forward. His tone softened even more, sensing the young man's sincerity, and then came the moment that would change the atmosphere of the entire courtroom. Audience hook. But when Judge Caprio learned who was standing before him, the entire courtroom went silent. Judge Caprio began the hearing as he always did, with patience and fairness. He asked Jimmy to explain what happened on the day of the incident. Jimmy spoke clearly but humbly, without excuses. He described how he might have misunderstood a road sign, how he stopped too late, or how he accidentally parked in the wrong spot. Whatever the details were, he explained them calmly, accepting his responsibility. Judge Caprio listened closely. He noticed how Jimmy never blamed anyone else. He never raised his voice or defended himself aggressively. His tone stayed gentle and respectful. "So you understand why the officer issued the ticket?" Judge Caprio asked. "Yes, Your Honor," Jimmy replied softly. "It was my mistake." The judge tilted his head slightly, impressed. Many people came into his courtroom arguing, complaining, or trying to avoid responsibility. But this young man stood differently, almost unusually polite. "Tell me a little about yourself," Judge Caprio said. Jimmy hesitated for a moment. "I'm just trying to build my life here, Your Honor, staying focused, working hard, and improving myself." Judge Caprio smiled. "That's a good attitude. Not many people your age speak like that." There was a gentle murmur in the courtroom. People could feel something special about the way he presented himself. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't fear. It was sincere humility. Engagement break. Have you ever met someone who impressed you with just their humility? Comment yes if you believe respect always wins. Judge Caprio continued his questions, wanting to understand the young man better. Something about Jimmy felt familiar, not in appearance, but in character. A quiet strength. A disciplined way of speaking. And soon, the judge's curiosity would lead him toward the truth that no one in the courtroom expected. Judge Caprio leaned back in his chair, observing Jimmy thoughtfully. "You seem like someone who was raised with strong values," he said. "Tell me about your family. What shaped you?" Jimmy took a breath, choosing his words carefully. He never liked using his background to gain attention, but he also didn't want to be dishonest. "I grew up in the Philippines, Your Honor. My family taught me discipline, faith, and respect from a young age. They always told me to stay grounded, no matter what." That answer made Judge Caprio even more curious. "Those are powerful lessons," the judge said. "Were they strict? Supportive?" "A bit of both," Jimmy said with a small smile. "My father always pushed us to be disciplined. He said life is not about comfort, it's about character. Judge Caprio nodded. Your father sounds like a wise man. Jimule continued. My parents also taught us that humility is more important than success. They said you should treat people kindly no matter your achievements. People in the courtroom listened closely. His words didn't sound rehearsed or exaggerated. They sounded lived, honest, real. The judge finally asked, What do you hope to do with your life? Jimule looked up, and for the first time, the emotion in his eyes showed. I want to build something on my own. I don't want to rely on my family's name. I want to earn respect through my actions. That line hit the courtroom in a powerful way. A few people even exchanged glances, wondering who exactly this young man was. Someone raised like that. Someone thinking like that. Someone staying this humble. There had to be more to the story. Judge Caprio felt it too. There was something deeper about Jimule's past, something the courtroom had not realized yet. What does your family do? The judge finally asked gently. Jimule hesitated again, as if choosing how much to reveal. My father. He's a boxer, he said quietly. And he went through many struggles before finding success. The judge's ears perked up. A boxer? He repeated. What's his name? Jimule gave a humble smile, but before he could answer, a sense of anticipation filled the room. Something big was about to be uncovered. Judge Caprio squinted thoughtfully. A boxer, you say? I know a few famous ones. Is your father someone I might know? The room grew still. Jimule lowered his eyes slightly, his voice gentle. His name is Manny Pacquiao, Your Honor. The words hung in the air like a shockwave. For a second, nobody moved. Then a whisper from the back. Did he just say Manny Pacquiao? Another voice. That's Manny Pacquiao's son. The courtroom suddenly buzzed with disbelief and excitement. People leaned forward. Some gasped. Some stared at Jimule as if seeing him for the first time. Judge Caprio's eyes widened. He wasn't easily surprised, but this moment caught him off guard. You mean Manny Pacquiao, the world champion? The boxing legend? Jimule gave a shy nod. Yes, Your Honor. The judge sat back, stunned. He looked at Jimule again, this time not as a regular young man with a simple ticket, but as the son of one of the greatest boxers of all time. But what struck him most wasn't the fame. It was the humility. You didn't mention this earlier, Judge Caprio said softly. Jimule shook his head. I didn't want to use his name to influence anything. I just wanted to handle this respectfully. That line silenced the entire courtroom. Many children of celebrities were known for entitlement. But here stood Jimule Pacquiao, quiet, respectful, humble. Judge Caprio smiled slowly, admiration filling his expression. Your father must be very proud. Judge Caprio leaned forward, his voice warm with emotion. I've followed your father's story for many years, he said. A man who rose from deep poverty to become a world champion, not because of luck, but because of heart, hard work, and faith. Jimule listened quietly, almost shy about hearing his father praised. The judge continued, I remember watching Manny fight. Every punch he threw carried the weight of his past, the struggles, the hunger, the determination. He inspired millions. The courtroom was completely silent now. But I'll tell you something, Judge Caprio added gently. What I see in you today, the humility, the respect, the discipline, that's something your father must value even more than his victories. Jimule swallowed, holding back emotion. This wasn't just a judge speaking. It sounded like a mentor, an elder, someone who understood life deeply. Judge Caprio then shared a memory from his own childhood. My father came to America with nothing, he said softly. He always told me, respect people. That's the real measure of a man. I see that same lesson in you. A few people wiped tears from their eyes. It was a rare moment. Two different worlds meeting in a courtroom, connected by values and family stories. You could have walked in here bragging, Judge Caprio said. But instead, you walked in here like any other young man, ready to accept responsibility. That tells me everything I need to know. The audience nodded, moved by the sincerity in his words. Judge Caprio finally turned back to the case. As for your ticket, he said gently, I'm going to dismiss it. A soft gasp spread through the courtroom. Not because of your name, he added firmly, but because your honesty and humility show me you learned from the situation. Sometimes, character matters more than punishment. Jimiel bowed his head respectfully. Thank you, Your Honor. I truly appreciate it. The judge smiled. Keep living with humility. The world needs more young men like you. Jimiel nodded, gratitude shining in his eyes. Within hours of the hearing, a short clip of the encounter appeared online. Then another, and another. By the next morning, the video had gone viral across social media, but the headlines weren't focused on Manny Pacquiao. They were focused on Jimiel's humility and Judge Caprio's wisdom. Millions commented on how refreshing it was to see a young man who could have leaned on fame choose integrity instead. Others praised Judge Caprio for recognizing character over status. People tagged their friends, shared the clip, and wrote messages like, "This is what real upbringing looks like." Respect is more powerful than fame. Two generations inspiring each other. It became more than a courtroom moment. It became a lesson for the world. Final call to action. If you believe true greatness comes from humility, type humble in the comments and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this.